The moment I saw the email, I knew the game was rigged. It was 6:42 a.m. and I was sitting in my car outside the office, sipping burnt gas station coffee, already running on fumes. The subject line was simple: Ray, commission structure adjustment. I didn't even have to open it to know what was coming. Still, I clicked and there it was, effective immediately. Top-tier client acquisitions will fall under the executive bonus pool, rather than individual commission. Translation: the 6 months I had spent hunting down the biggest client in our company's history, the sleepless nights, the flights, the dinners, the strategy sessions. The goddamn trust I had built wouldn't be my win, it would be theirs. They were cutting me out. I exhaled slowly, staring at the screen, then I laughed, a deep, genuine, almost amused laugh, because what my boss didn't know, what none of these clueless backstabbing suits knew, was that I had seen this coming 3 months ago. I had watched the way they handled other rainmakers before me, the subtle emotions, the vague, structural changes. The way men who built this company were suddenly thanked for their service and shown the door the moment they became too valuable. I wasn't going to be next. I took another sip of my coffee and stepped out of the car, rolling my shoulders like a boxer before the first bell. Today was going to be a hell of a day. By the time the deal was officially closed at 3:15 p.m., the entire office was buzzing. The contract had been signed. The client, a Fortune 500 giant I had personally courted from the ground up, was officially locked in for 5 years. The biggest deal in company history. Champagne was popped. My boss, Rick, strutted into the conference room, all smiles, slapping me on the back like we were old war buddies. "You really outdid yourself this time," he said, grinning. "Hell of a job." I could feel eyes on me, the entire sales floor, the execs, everyone waiting to see what I'd say. I just nodded, letting the moment breathe. Rick leaned in slightly, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "And just remember," he said, still smiling, "you should be grateful we keep you around." Ah, there it was, grateful, like I hadn't just pulled off the impossible, like I should be thankful for the opportunity to make them richer. I met his gaze, held it just long enough to make him shift slightly. He thought he owned this moment. He thought he owned me. I smiled. "Enjoy your weekend," I said. He didn't know it yet, but by Monday morning, the biggest client in company history wouldn't be his anymore. Rick barely registered my words, too busy basking in the afterglow of my victory. He laughed, clinking glasses with the other execs, already spinning the narrative like he had been the one on late-night calls, the one smoothing over every hesitation, the one who had fought for the steel tooth and nail. I let him, for now. I walked back to my office, slow and deliberate, because the last thing you do before setting a place on fire is act like you belong there. My desk was still cluttered from the last few weeks. Scribbled notes, meeting schedules, a half-eaten protein bar I hadn't touched in days. But my eyes went straight to my personal laptop, hidden in the drawer beneath some files. I pulled it out, powered it on, and checked the email drafts I had prepared weeks ago, one to my attorney, one to my new landlord, one to the client. Because here's the thing about landing $1 billion contract, it's not the ink on the paper that seals the deal, it's the relationship. And I had spent the last 6 months making sure that relationship wasn't with the company, it was with me. I had learned their kids' names. I knew which ones played soccer, which ones hated piano lessons. I knew the CEO's favorite bourbon, the CFO's obsession with classic Mustangs, the VP's tendency to check emails at 2 a.m. when his insomnia kicked in. When they needed reassurance, they called me. When they had concerns, they trusted me to fix them. And when I told them, very casually over dinner last week, that I had been thinking of new opportunities, they listened. I pulled up my text. "Me. Hope you're enjoying the champagne over there. Let me know when you have 5 minutes to chat. Would love to run something by you." It took less than 30 seconds for my phone to buzz. "Client CDO, for you, always call me now." I grabbed my keys and walked out. I wasn't taking this call from the office. I stepped into the elevator, the doors sliding shut with a soft chime, sealing me off from the celebration echoing down the hall. As I descended, I pulled out my phone and hit dial. He picked up on the first ring. "All right," the CEO said, his voice smooth, casual, like we were two old friends about to share a secret. "Tell me what's on your mind." I walked through the glass doors of the office lobby, out into the cool evening air, and leaned against my car, I let the moment settle, inhaling deeply before answering. Well, I said, watching the office lights flicker above me. What if I told you that by Monday, you wouldn't have to deal with them anymore? A pause, then a slow, amused chuckle. I'd say you have my attention. Good. I had spent months playing this company's game, busting my ass, delivering results. Only to be tossed scraps while the execs lined their pockets. I had watched as other top performers before me got sidelined, squeezed out the moment they became too valuable, too powerful. I had studied the system, memorized every play, every trick, but I wasn't about to end up like them. I was about to rewrite the rules. I reached into my pocket, pulling out the small, crisp business card I had been holding onto for weeks. My new firm's name was embossed in deep black ink, still fresh. I flipped it between my fingers as I spoke. You've worked with me long enough to know that what you're really paying for isn't just results. It's trust. It's someone who understands your business, your vision, and how to make sure you're not just another client on some quarterly earnings report. I paused. That doesn't change just because my email signature does. Silence, but not the bad kind. The calculated kind. The kind where a man is weighing every possibility, every risk, every reward. Finally, he exhaled. You starting your own shop? I smiled, running a thumb over the embossed letters on the card. Monday morning. Another pause, then a low chuckle. Damn, you move fast. Wouldn't be here if I didn't. He let out a thoughtful hum. So what's the ask? Here it was, the moment that would decide everything. I don't need you to leave them immediately, I said. That contract you just signed, you honor it. But when new business rolls in, when expansion starts, when you need real leadership, you call me first. I let the weight of it settle before delivering the final blow. And when their service starts slipping, because trust me, without me, it will, you give me the first shot to fix it. A deep chuckle, then the sound of ice clinking in a glass. You're a ruthless bastard, you know that. I grinned. I learned from the best. Another silence, then a slow, approving sigh. All right, kid, let's see what you can do. The deal was done by Monday. I wasn't just leaving, I was taking their future with me. I ended the call, exhaling slowly as I stared up at the office building, its massive windows reflecting the city skyline. It looked different now, smaller, like a relic of something I had already outgrown. I slid into my car, tossed my phone onto the passenger seat, and just sat there for a moment, letting it all sink in. The weight of what I had just done, the risk, the sheer audacity. But then again, what was the alternative? Stay, let them strip me of my commission, my credit, my worth, until I was just another disposable name in their system. Not a damn chance. I turned the key in the ignition, the engine rumbling to life as I pulled out of the parking lot. The next morning, I walked into the office like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't just dismantled their future with a single phone call. Rick was already making his rounds, still basking in his little victory. His voice boomed from across the sales floor, laughing, shaking hands, pretending like this deal had been his doing. I just smirked to myself and walked past, heading straight to my desk. Today was my last day here, but nobody knew it yet. I had prepared everything. My files were backed up, my clients already briefed. The handful of people I actually trusted in this company, they knew the plan. Some of them had even dropped by my office that morning, their expressions a mix of excitement and barely contained amusement. They knew what was coming, and yet Rick, he was oblivious, too busy celebrating to realize the ground beneath him was about to collapse. It happened at exactly 2:15 p.m. I was in the middle of a routine client check-in when my phone buzzed. Incoming call. Client CEO, right on schedule. I answered, keeping my voice even. Afternoon. How's everything looking on your end? Good, he said. Too good. There was a sharpness in his tone, something I recognized immediately. Then the words that sealed Rick's fate. We're pulling all future contracts from your firm. I didn't react, didn't need to. This was exactly what we had planned. We'll keep things professional. Of course, he continued. Fulfill the obligations of our existing contract. But when it's done, we're done. I leaned back in my chair, spinning my pen between my fingers. That's unfortunate, I said, the corners of my mouth twitching. He chuckled. Not for you, it is. And with that, the call ended. I stood up, stretched, cracked my neck. It was time. I grabbed the letter from my desk, the one I had written weeks ago, walked straight across the office, past rows of employees typing away, oblivious to the war that had already been won. Rick was in his office, laughing into the phone, probably still bragging about his record-breaking deal. I knocked once, didn't wait for a response and stepped inside. He glanced up, clearly annoyed at the interruption, but before he could say a word, I placed the envelope in front of him. He stared at it, then at me. "What's this?" he asked, still holding the phone to his ear. I smiled, my resignation. For the first time since I met him, Rick was speechless, but the best part, he still had no idea what was about to hit him. Rick stared at the envelope like it might explode. His smirk faltered, just a fraction, before he recovered. "You serious?" he scoffed, leaning back in his overpriced chair. "You're quitting? After everything we've built here?" I almost laughed. I didn't blink, just kept my eyes on him, watching the wheels turn in that self-important head of his. I said simply. He exhaled sharply, shaking his head like I was a naive idiot walking away from the best thing that had ever happened to me. "Look, I know you're upset about the commission change," he started, lacing his fingers together like a politician about to deliver a lesson. "But that's how business works. You win some, you lose some. And let's be honest, where else are you gonna find an opportunity like this?" There it was, the belief that I needed this company, that without them, I was nothing, that I should be grateful for the scraps they threw me. I let the silence stretch just long enough to make him uncomfortable. Then, I slid my phone from my pocket and placed it face up on his desk. New email notification, subject, contract termination notice. Rick frowned, his eyes darting from the subject line to me. "What the hell is this?" I leaned forward slightly, voice calm. "That," I said, "is your biggest client walking away." The color drained from his face. He grabbed his mouse, clicking through his inbox. Scanning desperately, I watched his throat tighten, as the realization hit him like a freight train. No, he muttered, clicking faster like he could undo it. "This doesn't make sense. They signed the damn contract." I shrugged. "They did, and they'll honor it, but once it's done, they're gone." His eyes snapped up to mine, fury replacing confusion. "You did this." I tilted my head. "No, Rick, you did this when you decided that the guy who built the relationship didn't deserve his share." I sat down slowly, letting the weight of it settle. "Did you really think they signed that deal because of you?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. The office outside was still humming, phones ringing, keyboards clicking, completely unaware that their entire future had just cracked down the middle. Rick's face twisted in something between rage and panic. "You have a non-compete," he snarled. "If you think I won't sue your ass into the ground." I laughed, actually laughed. "Rick," I said, shaking my head, "I wrote that contract. I negotiated the terms. Do you really think I'd put myself in a cage I couldn't break out of?" The vein in his temple pulsed. He knew right then and there. He knew he had lost, and I wasn't done. I stood, buttoning my jacket. "By the way," I said, nodding at my phone, "you might want to check your messages." His computer dinged. Another email. Subject, resignation notice. Rick's eyes flicked to the screen, and for the second time in under 5 minutes, he turned ghost white. One resignation, then another. And another, and another. The top talent on his team, the rainmakers, the people who actually made this company money, leaving with me. I leaned down, resting my hands on his desk, dropping my voice to something just above a whisper. "You should be grateful we kept you around this long." Then I walked out. By Monday morning, Rick wouldn't just be missing a client, he'd be missing his entire future. I walked out of Rick's office without looking back, but I didn't need to. I felt the panic behind me, the sharp intake of breath, the frantic clicking of his mouse, the sheer, suffocating realization that his kingdom wasn't just cracking, it was collapsing, and I was the one holding the match. The moment I stepped back onto the sales floor, the energy shifted, the hum of phone calls, the quiet chatter. It all stuttered for just a second as heads turned, as eyes flicked between me and the office I had just left. They didn't know exactly what had just happened, but they knew something was coming. I walked back to my desk, calm, collected like a man who had already won. I grabbed my things, not much, just a few personal files, my laptop, a framed picture that had sat on my desk for years as a reminder of why I started in the first place. And then, as I slung my bag over my shoulder, the first email hit. A soft ding from someone's computer, then another, and then chaos. Voices started rising, chairs scraped against the floor as People turned to their screens, reading the exact same thing Rick had just read in his office. Key resignations. Effective immediately. The people who actually mattered, the ones who built this place, who carried it on their backs, were done. I reached the elevator just as the doors opened, but before I stepped inside, I heard it. Rick's voice. Wait. I turned slow, deliberate, and there he was, standing at the edge of the sales floor, face red, eyes wide with something between fury and desperation. Everyone was watching now. I just raised an eyebrow like I hadn't just ripped the spine out of his company. Something wrong. His fists clenched, his jaw worked, he was scrambling, trying to find a move that would save him. He sucked in a breath, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Let's talk, let's be reasonable here. There's no reason to what? I interrupted, tilting my head. Do what you were gonna do to me. Cut my commission, squeeze me out, cut my legs off the second I became too valuable. Silence. He knew, they all knew. Rick opened his mouth, probably to spew some desperate corporate damage control. But I wasn't interested. I glanced at my watch, then back at him. I'd love to stay and chat, Rick, but I've got a company to run. I stepped into the elevator and let the doors close on his stunned, defeated face. As soon as I hit the lobby, I pulled out my phone. The group chat with my team was already blowing up, messages rolling in. We're locked in. Just got my offer letter, ready to go. Holy shit, that was beautiful. And then, one last message from the client. Looking forward to doing business Monday morning. I stepped out into the street, inhaling the crisp air, and smiled. By Monday, Rick wouldn't just be dealing with a loss. He'd be watching me build something bigger than he ever could. By the time I stepped out of that building, I wasn't just walking away, I was taking the future with me. The city pulsed around me, but I barely heard it. My mind was already ahead, already locked in on what came next. I checked my phone as I walked, scrolling through the flood of messages from my team, my clients, my attorney. The machine was already in motion, gears turning, doors opening. Then my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I already knew who it was. I smirked, swiping to answer. Afternoon, Rick. There was a sharp inhale on the other end, followed by a silence so thick I could practically taste the rage. You think this is funny? He finally hissed. I let out a low chuckle. Rick, I think this is hilarious. His breath was heavy, controlled. He was seething. You have no idea what you just did, he said, voice shaking with barely contained fury. You just tanked your career. You're never gonna get another opportunity like this. You needed us. I stopped walking, letting his words hang in the air for a second. Then I laughed again, deep, genuine, almost pitying. Rick, I said slowly, savoring every word, you still don't get it, do you? Silence. I was your opportunity. Another silence. Then a sharp exhale. He was spiraling. You think I'm just gonna let you walk away and take my clients? Oh, Rick, I said, shaking my head. They were never yours to begin with. His breath hitched. That was it. That was the moment he realized this wasn't a setback. This was permanent. I could almost hear the wheels turning in his head. The frantic scrambling, the damage control, the sinking reality that the empire he thought he ruled was already gone. You're gonna regret this, he snapped. I'll make sure of it, I smiled, stepping off the curb as a black town car pulled up in front of me. The driver stepped out, opening the door. My new ride, my new reality. I leaned against the open door, phone still pressed to my ear. Rick, I said, voice smooth, calm. What? He spat. Enjoy your weekend. Then I hung up. I slid into the car, the leather seats cool against my back as the driver pulled away from the curb. The city lights blurred past the window, but I wasn't looking at them. I was already thinking about Monday, because Monday was the beginning of something much, much bigger. The weekend was a storm I watched from the eye of the hurricane. Emails flew. Phone calls came in rapid succession. Offers were finalized. Papers were signed. My team, my people worked like a well-oiled machine, setting everything in motion. Every single move had been mapped out in advance. Every risk calculated. Every counterplay anticipated. Rick, he was drowning. By Saturday morning, I started hearing the fallout. My former colleagues, well, the ones who hadn't already jumped ship, were messaging me in a panic. Dude, what the hell is happening? Rick's losing it. He just pulled everyone into an emergency meeting. Full meltdown mode. He keeps saying you poisoned the well. By Sunday, it got worse. HR scrambling, people are already looking for new jobs. Rick's trying to put out fires, but no one's listening to him. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion, and me. I was exactly where I wanted to be. Monday morning, I stepped into my new office, sleek, modern, fresh paint still lingering in the air. The space was smaller, sure, but it was mine. Every desk, every screen, every employee in that room was there because they believed in what we were building, because they believed in me. I stood at the front of the room, hands in my pockets, watching as my team settled in. Some were still shaking off the dust of our old company. Some were already locked into their laptops, hungry to move forward. And then the first official call came in, not just from anyone, from the client. I stepped into my office, closing the glass door behind me, and answered. Morning, I said, keeping my voice easy, casual. Morning, the CEO responded, his tone amused. How's the new place treating you? Not bad, I said, looking around. Could use a few more deals to really make it feel like home. He laughed. Well, good news. I've got some new business to throw your way. Just sent the contract over. I pulled up my laptop, opened my inbox, and there it was, a contract bigger than the last one. Bigger than anything I had landed before. I leaned back in my chair, grinning as I scanned the details. Rick wasn't just losing his biggest client. He was losing his entire market share. I exhaled slowly, savoring the moment. Well, I said, clicking accept. I guess it's time to get to work. And just like that, the future belonged to me.